Have you ever wondered if being single after 65 might be the best choice for your health, happiness, and peace of mind? It's a thought that might feel a little uncomfortable to entertain, especially when society tells us that companionship is a must in our later years. But what if the real secret to thriving in your golden years isn't finding a new partner, but rather embracing the freedom and independence that comes with staying single? In today's video, we're going to explore 7 powerful reasons why choosing to stay single after 65 might not only be better for your well-being, but could be the best decision you ever make. We'll dive into the emotional toll of conflict, the financial complications that often come with blending lives later in life, and how the loss of personal space and routine can erode your sense of peace. You'll also discover how caregiving burdens and family tensions can create more stress than joy, and why many seniors find themselves pressured into relationships for all the wrong reasons. But that's not all. We'll also reveal a hidden truth about why solitude after 65 can be a gift you never expected, and why choosing to be on your own might lead to a deeper sense of fulfillment than you ever thought possible. Stick around until the end, because the 7th reason is one no one talks about, but it affects more people than you might imagine. This video could completely change the way you view your next chapter in life. Don't miss it. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Reason 1. Emotional stress from conflict. No matter how perfectly two people seem to click, relationships, especially new ones, are often laden with conflict, misunderstandings, clashing habits, and differences in how you see the world. The idea that relationships are a harmonious blend of hearts and minds can feel idealistic, even romantic. But reality tells a different story, especially when you're in a later stage of life. When we're younger, we often view struggles in relationships as just a part of life, a natural aspect of learning and growing. Those little misunderstandings or disagreements don't seem as daunting. They feel temporary. Yet, when we reach the age of 65 and beyond, things shift dramatically. The energy you once had to brush things off, to go with the flow, isn't the same anymore. The patience to weather through the storm feels thinner, and what used to be a passing, trivial squabble now carries the weight of emotional exhaustion, reverberating in your mind and body long after the disagreement has ended. What many older adults come to realize, often painfully, is that emotional stress hits harder and deeper now than ever before. As we age, our nervous system doesn't work at full throttle like it once did, and stress recovery takes much longer. Sleep, which should be a refuge, becomes fragile, as though it's just out of reach. The toll of repeated emotional conflict, whether big or small, sinks into our bones, affecting not only our mental state but our physical health too. Over time, this takes a cumulative toll, leading to fatigue, a general sense of anxiety, and even depression. You may have noticed it yourself. Those arguments that used to feel temporary now linger and settle in your thoughts, or worse, in your heart. Take Edith, for example. At 73, after a decade of independence and solitude, she entered a new relationship, hopeful. She loved having someone to talk to over dinner, someone to take walks with at dusk, someone who filled the empty spaces of her days. The initial excitement of companionship was intoxicating, but soon the cracks began to show. They started with little things: his constant criticisms about how she managed her time, her growing discomfort with the frequent phone calls, which began to feel like an invasion rather than a gesture of affection. What had once been tender and loving seemed to shift into a form of control. Edith found herself defending her boundaries over and over again, which stirred up feelings she thought she had long buried. The stress she carried from these emotional battles brought back old wounds she hadn't realized were still there, hidden beneath the surface. After 6 months, Edith made the brave decision to end the relationship. She described the sense of relief as if she had finally gotten a full night's sleep after years of tossing and turning. That moment of release was something she had been yearning for without even knowing it. So many older adults, perhaps even you, carry emotional baggage from the past, be it from painful marriages, the death of a beloved partner, or unresolved family issues. And while the idea of companionship may seem comforting, it should never come at the expense of your emotional health. It is crucial to remember that a relationship should enhance your life, not drain it. Choosing to stay single, as painful as it might seem at first, means fewer emotional landmines to navigate. It means fewer emotional roller coasters, fewer moments of turmoil that take a toll on your spirit. The peace that comes with solitude can be a precious gift. It's a choice to embrace calm over chaos, serenity over stress, and for many, it can be life-saving. And in the quiet, in the stillness, there's room for healing, a chance to reclaim that vital peace, that inner tranquility, which so many older adults, like Edith, find they can't afford to lose. If you're grappling with similar choices or emotions, remember, peace isn't just an option. For some of us, it becomes the only choice that truly sustains us. Reason 2. Financial complications. As much as we like to believe that love conquers all, the reality is that money never turns a blind eye. It always sees clearly, and it rarely looks the other way. Especially as we age, finances are no longer just numbers on a piece of paper. They are the foundation of our security. They represent our stability, our ability to receive the medical care we need, the legacy we wish to leave for our children, and ultimately, the peace of mind we crave. When we introduce a new partner into the mix, it's not just about companionship anymore. It's about merging two financial lives, and that often turns a peaceful retirement into a high-wire balancing act. When you're in your 30s or 40s, it's relatively easy to navigate financial struggles within a relationship. There's still time to earn, recover from mistakes, and rebuild your savings. But after 65, that's when the stakes become undeniably higher. At that point, you've likely seen the culmination of decades of hard work, where your income is mostly fixed, and every penny is accounted for. Your assets, which you've so carefully preserved over the years, become your safety net. The margin for error is razor thin, and you can't afford to gamble with your financial future. A new partner at this stage of life may come with their own set of financial challenges. They might bring along baggage, credit card debt, different spending habits, and sometimes even unrealistic expectations around shared expenses. I can't even begin to stress how something as seemingly simple as buying groceries together can turn into a massive point of contention if you and your partner aren't on the same financial page. It's all too easy for a lack of communication to quietly erode the peace you've worked so hard to build. Take Roger, for instance. At 68, he lost his wife and then reconnected with an old high school friend. Their friendship blossomed into something more, and within months, she had moved in with him. Roger, ever the generous soul, willingly took on the role of provider, covering dinners, vacations, and new household items. But over time, he started to notice an unsettling truth. His savings were disappearing faster than he ever imagined. His partner had expensive tastes, and though she expected they would split expenses down the middle, her contributions were always just out of reach. The disparity between what he was giving and what she was contributing became impossible to ignore. When Roger finally voiced his concerns, his partner took offense. The comfortable bond they had shared turned into an uncomfortable, unspoken tension that neither of them had anticipated. What was once meant to be a source of joy became the breeding ground for quiet resentment. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But it's not just about the act of spending. Financial entanglements at this stage in life can ripple into other areas, from tax brackets to social security benefits. I've seen firsthand how some seniors, eager to remarry, risk losing pensions or vital healthcare coverage. Two things that are critical at this stage in life. And when adult children are involved, inheritance conversations become even more delicate and emotional. The lines between what's private and what's shared become blurred, and before you know it, A decision that was meant to bring joy becomes tangled in confusion and worry. This is where the beauty of staying single can shine through. By staying independent, you maintain complete control over your finances. You have the freedom to spend, save, and give without any obligation to negotiate every purchase or defend every financial decision. You've worked so hard throughout your life to achieve financial independence, and the last thing you want is to let that peace be shattered. Keeping your finances separate, especially in later years, might just be the best decision for your emotional and financial well-being. Your peace of mind, something that so many of us take for granted when we're younger, becomes the most sacred thing to protect. And when you can preserve that, the stress of money doesn't have the power to overshadow the joy you deserve. Reason 3. Loss of routine and personal space. As we move through life, we craft and nurture routines that bring us comfort, stability, and a sense of identity. These routines might seem small to others, but they are the heartbeat of our daily existence. For me, it's the quiet of the early morning with a steaming cup of coffee, the soothing hum of my favorite news station, and the gentle walk in the afternoon sun that keeps me grounded. It's in these moments that I find peace, a connection to myself, and a feeling that no matter what changes around me, I have control over at least one part of my world. But as we age, especially when a new partner enters the picture, these small, familiar comforts are often the first things to change, and the impact can be deeply unsettling. Take Louise, for example, a vibrant woman at 70 who had spent over a decade living peacefully on her own. Her mornings were slow and intentional. She took pride in her ritual of rising early, savoring the tranquility of her garden while journaling her thoughts, and then retreating to quiet activities like reading or knitting in the afternoons. For her, these habits were the pulse of her day, the thread that wove everything together. So, when she met someone new, she was filled with hope, eager to share her world. They began spending weekends together, and over time, their lives started to blend. But soon, subtle changes began to rattle her carefully curated existence. Her new partner, as well-meaning as he was, had a different rhythm. He liked to sleep in, something Louise was never accustomed to, and the sound of the TV blasting in the mornings became an unwelcome presence in her peaceful home. He rearranged her kitchen without asking, as though the sacred space she'd carefully organized was no longer hers to command. Louise, for the first time in years, felt that the sanctuary she'd so lovingly built was being invaded. "I didn't realize how much my little habits mattered," she confided, her voice tinged with a quiet sadness. "Until they were no longer mine." And that's the crux of it. The disruption isn't always loud or obvious, but it is deeply felt. It seeps into the fabric of your daily life, unnoticed at first, but gradually, it begins to erode the sense of security and independence that has become second nature. You start to share more than just your home. You share your refrigerator, your TV remote, and your schedule. Every aspect of your life, from the mundane to the significant, becomes a negotiation. What's for dinner? Where should we put the laundry basket? These decisions, once easily made in the comfort of your mind, now become a delicate dance of compromise. While compromise is, of course, a necessary part of any relationship, for many older adults, the toll it takes can feel like a loss of something much more precious: freedom. It's the quiet autonomy to decide how your day unfolds, the ability to move through your life without adjusting to someone else's preferences, and the joy of being able to live exactly as you please. For those of us who've spent years, perhaps even decades, living independently, this freedom is more precious than ever. It's not just about having more space. It's about the profound peace that comes with having the time, the room, and the authority to be yourself without compromise. For many older adults, remaining single doesn't equate to loneliness. It's a choice to preserve this invaluable personal space. It's a conscious decision to wake when you want, eat when you want, and organize your life without ever having to explain or adjust for someone else. That kind of quiet, unspoken joy, the joy of simply being yourself in your own space, can often outweigh the noise and complexities of constant companionship. And in that stillness, in that sacred space of solitude, many find more fulfillment than they ever could in the bustle of another person's presence. Reason 4. Increased caregiving burden. As the years slip by, there comes a time for almost every senior when they must face the inevitable reality of declining health, whether it's their own or that of a loved one. The instinct to care for those we love is one of the most beautiful aspects of being human, but we must not ignore the immense toll that caregiving can take on us, physically, emotionally, and mentally. And as we grow older, those tolls can become even more significant. Entering into a new relationship after the age of 65 can be a joyous and hopeful chapter. But what happens when, soon after, the health of your partner begins to falter? Suddenly, you may find yourself assuming the role of caregiver, even though you never imagined it would come to this. It can feel like a heavy burden, even as you struggle to navigate your aging process. Caregiving is an act of deep love, yes, but it is undeniably demanding. It's not just the daily responsibilities, like bathing, administering medications, cooking meals, and cleaning the house. It's the emotional and mental weight that doesn't always show. It's the quiet moments when you lie awake at night, wondering if you're doing enough, feeling a mix of guilt and frustration. The exhaustion that comes from giving every ounce of yourself to someone else can be all-consuming, and sadly, it can sometimes feel isolating. What was once a loving relationship can gradually turn into a 24/7 responsibility, and the emotional and physical strain can weigh so heavily that it becomes overwhelming. Take George, for instance. At 76, he met Ruth at a church gathering, a place where he found not just love, but connection and joy. They moved in together after only 4 months, and everything felt perfect. But soon after, Ruth's health began to deteriorate. She lost her ability to move freely, and George, without warning, found himself becoming her caregiver in every sense of the word. He helped her with everything, from bathing her, managing her medications, and cooking all the meals, to handling the housekeeping duties. And through it all, George never once complained. But deep inside, he was exhausted. The weight of caring for Ruth began to affect him physically. His blood pressure spiked, his sleep was restless, and he stopped going to the community center events he once loved. What was meant to be a peaceful, fulfilling retirement slowly faded into a series of constant duties. And I can't help but feel for George because his situation is not an isolated one. It's a reality for many people as they age. The truth is, caregiving can be a beautiful expression of love, but it is also one of the most demanding roles a person can take on. When caregiving is thrust upon us unexpectedly, without the time to prepare or adjust, it can lead to burnout, and burnout is a very real concern, especially for those of us already dealing with our health challenges. This doesn't mean caregiving is wrong or that it doesn't come with a deep sense of purpose. But when the burden of caregiving feels too heavy, it is important to recognize that it's okay to take a step back, to acknowledge our limits. Choosing to remain single doesn't mean turning your back on compassion. It means being wise enough to know that your energy, your health, and your peace of mind are invaluable. Our bodies and minds require care as we age, and there comes a time when we must decide how to best protect our well-being. By choosing to remain independent, many seniors protect their own health and emotional peace, avoiding the emotional toll that comes with watching a partner's health decline. It's not selfish to choose self-care, it's wisdom. It's about recognizing that we deserve the chance to enjoy the later years of our lives without the weight of crisis and caregiving responsibilities on our shoulders. Sometimes, it is in choosing ease over effort, quiet over crisis, that we find the deepest peace and strength. And that, in my opinion, is a choice worth making. Reason 5. Family tensions and inheritance issues. As we get older, relationships evolve in ways that impact not just us but the people around us, especially our families. It's not just about us finding love or companionship again. It's about navigating the emotions and fears that those closest to us might carry. Relationships later in life can be a delicate balancing act, with every move you make sending ripples through your family dynamic. When adult children are involved, the complications multiply, and things can spiral quickly into misunderstandings and hurt. A new partner, someone who seems to be entering your life with fresh energy and attention, can unintentionally become a perceived threat. It's not just about love anymore. It's about ownership, control, and fear. The emotional and financial territories that once belonged solely to your children may feel like they are being seized, even if that isn't the case at all. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. The reality is, whether justified or not, these feelings of jealousy, suspicion, and resentment are so very real. Many seniors are caught off guard by the reactions of their children when they begin dating again, especially after the loss of a spouse. The overwhelming desire to regain a sense of happiness and companionship can sometimes be met with silent judgment or even outright rejection. A parent's joy, especially when it's something as precious as a second chance at love, can feel threatening to those who have been accustomed to being the center of attention. And in many cases, that fear extends to practical matters. Worries about how a new partner might influence decisions regarding money, inheritance, and property. The emotional ties that once existed between parents and children can start to unravel, leaving behind feelings of betrayal and sadness. Take Martha, for instance. At 66, she met someone who made her smile again, a retired professor she met at a local book club. They shared a deep love for history and travel, and their quiet afternoons together brought a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. But when Martha shared her newfound happiness with her 2 sons, she was met with complete silence. Silence that eventually morphed into skepticism. Her sons began questioning everything: her decisions, her finances, even her health. The joy that she had found now seemed to be the very thing that pulled her family further away. The stress and tension grew so unbearable that Martha ultimately made the heartbreaking choice to end the relationship, simply to restore peace with her family. "I never imagined that finding joy again would cost me the closeness of my children," she said, her voice breaking with sorrow. "It's so painful to think that happiness, something so personal and pure, could create a chasm between someone and the very people they love the most." Inheritance issues only make this situation more complex. When seniors decide to cohabitate or marry later in life, the legal landscape changes. Assets, wills, and estates may be redefined, often without a full understanding of the potential consequences. A new partner may, unintentionally, have claims to part of the estate, and this can be a deep source of anxiety for children. Without thoughtful planning and clear communication, families can be left shocked, confused, and even feeling betrayed when the inheritance they thought was theirs suddenly shifts. These unresolved issues linger long after the relationship is over, poisoning the memories of what could have been a joyous chapter in life. The pain of these conflicts often transcends the relationship itself, carrying on and festering for years, maybe even decades. In some ways, staying single in later life can seem like a refuge, a way to avoid the emotional pitfalls that often accompany new relationships. It provides a way to maintain a sense of control over your private life and avoid creating friction between the people you love the most. It allows you to keep your boundaries intact and protect your legacy, both financially and emotionally. But even this choice can carry its weight, especially when it feels like solitude is the only way to preserve peace. You've spent a lifetime building deep relationships with your children, your grandchildren, and your community. Those bonds, those moments of shared love and connection, are invaluable and irreplaceable. Sometimes, protecting these relationships requires sacrifices of our desires, not because we fear love, but because we know the cost. It's a painful reality to face, that sometimes, to protect what we've built, we have to forego what we might want most. But in the quiet moments of reflection, there's a deep sense of peace in knowing that our choices are made out of love, foresight, and a genuine desire to safeguard the most meaningful connections in our lives. It's a difficult, heart-wrenching decision, but one that comes from a place of wisdom and care. Reason 6. Reduced independence and freedom. As we grow older, there's a kind of quiet freedom that seeps into our lives, an independence that, though seldom spoken about, is something we come to cherish deeply. It's a freedom that feels like a breath of fresh air, a release from the constant demands of the world. The ability to wake up when you want to, without the pressure of a rigid schedule. The joy of spending a peaceful day in silence, with no one to answer to. You might even feel the rebellious urge to have cereal for dinner, or take a few hours to rearrange the living room just because you feel like it. These simple pleasures, small, quiet moments, become sacred after years of giving so much of ourselves to others. After years of raising children, working tirelessly, and caring for those who relied on us, that freedom isn't just a luxury, it becomes a well-earned treasure. But then, when you meet someone new, especially as you grow older, that freedom starts to change. It's easy to forget, when you're deeply in love, that having a partner brings not just companionship but compromise. Suddenly, it's no longer just about you, it's about us. You have to consider their needs, their preferences, and their schedule. And yes, even with love, with all the best intentions in the world, that shift can feel restrictive. Slowly, the spontaneity you once enjoyed fades. The flexibility you guarded so fiercely seems to slip away. And before you know it, that independence, the very thing that brought you peace for so long, becomes something you long for, something you miss deeply. It's a loss that doesn't come with loud, dramatic conflict. It's subtle, insidious, like the soft erosion of the things that made you feel whole. Take Walter, for instance. At 74, he had just retired with grand plans to explore the world. His dream was to take long train rides through picturesque countryside, visiting old friends in charming towns. He imagined days filled with adventure, of waking up in different cities, experiencing new places, and relishing the freedom that retirement promised. But, as so often happens, life didn't quite align with his dreams. His partner, who was wonderful in many ways, didn't share those same dreams. She preferred the comfort of routine, staying home, and had a deep aversion to flying. As the months passed, Walter's dream began to shrink, his plans growing smaller and smaller until they no longer resembled what he had hoped for. He found himself canceling trips, letting go of his travel aspirations, and, in his own words, shrinking his life. "I wasn't mad at her," he said. "I was mad at myself for giving up parts of who I was becoming." That's the quiet, dangerous effect of compromise. It's not about control or conflict. It's about gradually giving up pieces of yourself, little by little, until you don't even recognize the person you once were. That's the hidden cost of love, one that doesn't often get discussed but can leave a deep, lingering ache. At any age, whether you're 65, 70, or 80, you've earned the right to prioritize your time, your space, and your direction. You've spent a lifetime tending to others, fulfilling obligations, and putting the needs of those around you first. Now, it's your time to embrace life on your terms. And sometimes, to protect that freedom, the most empowering choice you can make is to walk the path alone. Choosing to remain single doesn't mean you're destined for loneliness or isolation. On the contrary, it's about designing a life that is in alignment with your values, your passions, and your pace. It means creating a space where you are free to nurture meaningful relationships, where you can still love deeply, and where you can build bonds with friends, family, and even yourself. But the difference is, your time, your most precious resource, becomes yours again. That, for many, is the truest, most profound form of peace. As someone who has lived through both the joys of love and the sacrifices it can demand, I can say from experience that there's a kind of quiet power in owning your independence. There's a deep, unshakable peace that comes when you stop compromising your soul for the sake of others. It's not about shutting others out. It's about choosing yourself, your happiness, and your well-being. And that is a kind of peace that money, relationships, or possessions can never take away. Reason 7. Pressure to settle for the wrong reasons. One of the most painful, yet often unspoken, reasons some seniors jump into new relationships is driven by fear. Fear of being alone, fear of judgment, and an underlying fear that time is slipping away. Society, with all its expectations, often makes us feel like we're failing if we're single, especially as we grow older. The message is clear. Being partnered is the ultimate goal, and being alone is somehow a deficiency. This pressure to conform to societal norms can be overwhelming, especially when everyone around you seems to have found their other half. In moments like these, many of us start to convince ourselves that we should settle, that perhaps this is the best we can do. We start lowering our standards, thinking that this is as good as it gets. And what happens next? We begin to ignore those whispers in our hearts that remind us of our worth, of our right to seek something more than just a warm body beside us. This is where the pain starts to creep in, silently but deeply. We tell ourselves it's okay to ignore the red flags, to overlook the feeling of discomfort, simply because we're afraid of being alone. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. And yet, it's this very fear that leads us down a path where we settle into relationships that are, at best, lukewarm, and at worst, emotionally harmful. Take Barbara, for example. At 69, she met a man through a senior dating site. He was polite, punctual, and seemed like he was ready for commitment. But deep within, Barbara felt no real connection. He didn't make her laugh. He didn't truly understand her. But because of the pressure not to be the last single person at the table, she agreed to be with him. Everyone else around her was paired off, and she didn't want to face the uncomfortable stares or pitying glances. But after 6 months, Barbara found herself feeling more alone in the relationship than she had ever felt before. The pain of isolation was more profound when she was with him than when she was on her own. This is the trap, the silent destruction of your joy and peace, caused by the decision to settle based on fear rather than strength. When fear makes your decisions, it causes you to shrink and live small. You start to shape your life around someone else's comfort rather than your truth. And in doing so, you rob yourself of the potential for a truly fulfilling connection. A relationship that can lift you, inspire you, and support the best version of yourself. Here's a truth that many are too afraid to voice. Being single after 65 isn't something to fear. It can be one of the most empowering choices you can make. It offers you the precious gift of time to rediscover yourself, to dive into passion projects, and to heal from old wounds. It allows space for growth that sometimes becomes hard to find in a relationship. It is in solitude that we learn the most profound lessons about ourselves. Most importantly, we learn that peace is not something you find in another person. It is something you create from within. If, by some beautiful twist of fate, a new relationship enters your life and adds value to it without draining your soul, then embrace it. But don't feel pressured to say yes simply because the clock is ticking. You don't have to settle for anything less than what truly brings you joy. You have the right to say no, not because you are bitter, but because you are finally standing in your power and understanding what truly matters in life. There is a quiet strength in being alone, one that doesn't isolate but rather frees you. It allows you to be unapologetically yourself, free from the constraints of expectations. As we grow older, we start to see the world through a clearer lens. Time becomes more precious, and energy more finite. We realize that the quality of our days doesn't depend on how many people surround us, but on how full our hearts feel when we are on our own. Being single after 65 isn't a tragedy. It's not a last resort. It is not an indication of failure. For many, it is the start of a new chapter. A chapter filled with intention, serenity, and a deep sense of self-respect. Embrace this time. It is your time to shine in your light. As we wrap up, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've discussed today. We've touched on the fear of settling for the wrong reasons, and the power of choosing peace and self-discovery over the pressure to conform. So, what have you learned so far? Is there something that resonated with you deeply? Something you can take with you and apply to your own life? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please, share in the comments below one thing you've learned and plan to practice moving forward. And if you found this video valuable, please don't forget to leave your comment, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Your support means the world and helps us continue to create content that can empower and uplift others. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to reading your thoughts.